If you've been following Wrestle Savage on TikTok or Instagram, it's no secret that we love ECW, and if you've clicked on this, chances are you love ECW too. Extreme Championship Wrestling will never die. For those who lived it or discovered it after its demise, it's something perfect that can't be duplicated but is always imitated. So if you're really hardcore, if you're truly extreme, smash a beer over your head, swing a chair around, illegally download that ReCW with the original kick-ass music, hit the subscribe button, and let's count down the top 8 ECW World Heavyweight Champions of the original ECW.
Thank Terry Funk for all he's done for this company.
Number 8. The Beast from the East. Bam Bam Bigelow made his debut for ECW on February 23rd, 1996 at Just Another Night, defeating Cactus Jack and getting choked out by Taz. However, he didn't become a permanent fixture in the land of Extreme until May 1997 when he joined Shane Douglas's new Triple Threat stable. Bigelow played a pivotal role in the main event scene, particularly in the storyline where Rick Rude was picking opponents for Shane Douglas. This storyline remains one of the best in ECW's history, seeing Bam Bam Bigelow challenging Shane Douglas on the October 20th, 1997 episode of Hardcore TV and defeating him, becoming the new ECW World Heavyweight Champion. Although Bigelow's title run was short and he dropped the belt back to Douglas at the 1997 November to Remember event, his initial win was something that nobody saw coming. His run with the title belt made it seem like he would be an impossible to defeat champion, adding to the shock when Douglas was able to recapture the belt a month later. Bigelow helped elevate ECW's perception during his time there, and he was easily one of the greatest champions to hold the title. Number 7. The Gladiator. Two-time ECW champion Mike Awesome dethroned the human suplex machine Taz to win the ECW World Heavyweight Championship for the first time on September 19th, 1999 at Anarchy Rules. He lost it to his rival Masato Tanaka before regaining it in December 1999. During his run as a World Heavyweight Champion, he also won the ECW Tag Team titles with Raven. Awesome stood out as the main star of ECW during his time as champion, as many of the top talents had departed from ECW. He played a crucial role in keeping eyes on the company during its fledgling years. Mike Awesome's ECW championship run came to an end in a controversial and highly interesting fashion. Depending on whose side of the story you want to believe, Paul Heyman's side, where Mike Awesome was portrayed as the greedy opportunist trying to take the ECW championship to WCW, or Mike Awesome's side, where he claimed that Paul Heyman promised him the world but delivered only bounced checks. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. Either way, on April 14th, 2000, on an episode of ECW on TNN, Paul Heyman announced that Taz had shocked the entire wrestling world the previous night. Footage showed a WCW contracted wrestler, Mike Awesome, losing the ECW World Heavyweight Championship to a WWF contracted wrestler, Taz. This marked the only real WCW versus WWF moment in history. Mike Awesome's ECW championship run was nothing short of awesome, and regardless of which side of the story you lean on about how he left the company, it cannot be denied that he stands amongst ECW's greatest World Heavyweight Champions. Number 6. The Impact Player. Justin Credible doesn't receive enough credit for his true wrestling greatness. A despised heel in ECW, he constantly delivered standout matches on the undercard and incredible tag team matches with his partner Lance Storm as the Impact Players. His ascent to the top of the ECW card faced heavy criticism from fans and journalists alike who believed he didn't deserve it. However, it's likely that his effectiveness as a heel made him so good at his role that they just couldn't stand him. From injuring the great Sasuke's leg and removing his mask, to breaking Mikey Whipwreck's leg and taking the Sandman's trademark Singapore cane whilst dubbing himself the hardcore icon, Credible's ECW rise managed to make even his own fans hate him. His cocky, arrogant promos, his ability to charm all the women in ECW while remaining unapologetic, and his catchphrase, "That's not just the coolest, that's not just the best, That, my friends, is just incredible. All delivered cringeworthy, egotistical excellence, making you just want to punch him in his smug face. Of course, that's precisely what made him such a fantastic ECW champion. Watching Just Incredible defend his title created a strong desire to see him lose. This dynamic meant that during his time as champion, ECW was able to utilize the heat to elevate their next star. This ultimately led to Jerry Lynn becoming the champion while evolving Steve Corino. Credible remained a significant figure in the main event scene until ECW closed its doors, and he continues to be remembered as not just one of the coolest ECW champions, not just one of the best ECW champions, but my friends, he was a just incredible ECW champion. Number 5. The Hardcore Icon. The Sandman, an ECW original and 5-time ECW World Heavyweight Champion, won the Eastern Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Championship once, and the Extreme Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship 4 times. Starting under a surfer gimmick, the Sandman evolved into the hardcore, chain-smoking, beer-drinking icon that we all know and love. He played a crucial role in ECW history as the champion. His legendary feud with Raven over the title became super personal, blurring the lines between fiction and reality and drawing many new eyes to ECW. The Sandman even saw his own son turned against him and endured being crucified during the feud over the championship. In his later years in ECW, the Sandman feuded with Rhino, and he helped to legitimize Rhino as a main eventer. As an ECW champion, the Sandman was always a fan favorite. His chaotic and highly violent brawls became the cornerstone of what helped ECW gain international exposure in its early days, and he popularized the use of the Singapore cane in wrestling. The Sandman is often credited as an influence on the Stone Cold Steve Austin gimmick for his beer-swilling antics, so let's raise a beer to one of the greatest sons of bitches to ever hold the ECW World Heavyweight Championship, and jump in the comments if you're down with the Sandman and give us a hell yeah! Number 4. The Dirty Funker. Middle-aged and crazy like a fox in ECW, Terry Funk was a 2-time ECW champion, once as the Eastern and once as the Extreme Heavyweight Champion. Terry Funk became the Extreme Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion on ECW's first pay-per-view, significantly boosting ECW's national recognition in America. He achieved this by defeating Raven with a little help from his protege, Tommy Dreamer. Funk's presence in ECW during its early days, alongside a handful of other legendary names, was instrumental in growing the company during those NWA days. His victory at Barely Legal in 1997 elevated ECW's status to the world premiere hardcore promotion. Battling Sabu in an incredibly violent barbed wire match, feuding with wrestlers like Raven, Shane Douglas, Terry Funk raised ECW's public perception to unprecedented heights whilst revitalizing his own career. This resurgence subsequently led to memorable stints in the WWF and WCW. Terry Funk's legacy as a pro wrestling legend will continue to live on forever, and his contributions to the ECW during its early days are regarded fondly by millions of wrestling fans. ECW introduced them to the hardcore style that Terry Funk's family practically pioneered in Texas, and Terry Funk will undoubtedly be remembered as one of the greatest ECW champions of all time. Number 3. The Franchise. Shane Douglas, the catalyst of the Extreme Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship and the era of Extreme, was a 4-time ECW World Heavyweight Champion. Notably, Douglas holds the record for the longest reign, as he maintained the championship for an impressive 406 days. By symbolically throwing down the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in the ring and declaring himself the new ECW Extreme World Heavyweight Champion, Shane Douglas pledged to ignite a new flame of the sport of professional wrestling. Amid a promotion often dismissed by those who hadn't genuinely watched it as mere blood and guts or garbage wrestling, Douglas stood out as a true, pure wrestling champion. He constantly delivered standout matches, and he delivered unforgettable promos that have endured the test of time, solidifying his greatness in the wrestling industry. His feud with Terry Funk remains one of our favorites from ECW, showcasing the clash between Douglas's young, technical wrestling style and Funk's veteran, brutal, hardcore approach. Douglas's brief feud and series of matches with Bam Bam Bigelow are also memorable, as is his intensely heated and personal rivalry with Taz, ultimately passing the torch to him. Of course, we can't overlook the various iterations of the Triple Threat faction. The original Triple Threat composed of Shane Douglas, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko, and they dominated ECW. Douglas held the World Heavyweight Championship, while Benoit and Malenko held the ECW World Tag Team Championships, and Malenko held the World Television Championship, solidifying the Triple Threat as holders of every title in ECW at that time. The second incarnation featured Douglas alongside Bam Bam Bigelow and Chris Candido, effectively shielding Douglas and his championship from Taz, resulting in one of ECW's most iconic storylines. Shane Douglas and the ECW World Heavyweight Championship are synonymous with each other, and his legacy will forever be intertwined with ECW. This solidifies Douglas as undoubtedly one of the greatest ECW champions. Number 2. The martyr for society's dysfunction. What about me? What about Raven? As the holder of the ECW World Heavyweight Championship, Raven was an indomitable champion and central figure of hardcore TV. His rivalries with Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman stood as some of the most compelling storylines in ECW's history. Raven's prowess extended far beyond the need for championships to validate his status as the best. His in-ring skills and sophisticated promos were testament enough, and whether you loved or despised Raven, he stood as a pillar of ECW. Raven's Nest, his stable, saw him often mistreating his stooges and valets, while seamlessly weaving into ECW's intricate narrative like no other. Making his debut on January 10th, 1995 on an episode of Hardcore TV, Raven embarked on a feud with Tommy Dreamer. In January of 1996, he secured his first ECW World Heavyweight Championship, holding it for 252 days. Throughout this time, he clashed with the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer, briefly losing the title for 2 months to the Sandman before reclaiming it and holding it for another 127 days. Raven's feud with Terry Funk led into ECW's first pay-per-view, and he appeared on WWF Raw with the championship on February 24th, 1997, during a time when Vince McMahon was lending his hand to ECW to give it more exposure. Raven played a significant role in elevating ECW to larger shows, and he helped them gain global attention in the 1996 and 1997 period. During his time in ECW, Raven tormented the Sandman, manipulating his ex-wife and child. He wreaked havoc in Tommy Dreamer's life and engaged in a legendary dog collar match alongside his flunky Stevie Richards against the Pitbulls. Raven's reign as the ECW World Heavyweight Champion solidified his status as a wrestling legend, and he continued to achieve success in WCW, TNA, and even ROH after refining the Raven persona in the land of extreme. He will forever be recognized as one of the greatest ECW World Heavyweight Champions. Number 1. The Human Suplex Machine. Taz's time as the ECW World Heavyweight Champion was truly transformative for the promotion, marking a significant phase of growth and expansion. Notably, Taz's influence extended beyond his in-ring performances, and he played a pivotal role in shaping ECW's merchandise, including designing its iconic barbed wire logo and streetwear style. These contributions helped ignite the boom of 90s wrestling t-shirts and further solidified his impact behind the scenes in the business. During 1998 and 1999, Taz was the face of ECW, headlining major events and elevating the promotion to new heights. His promos and unique shoot fighter gimmick during this period was standout even among ECW's already exceptional offerings. His intense rivalry with Sabu, and still to this day viral moments like crashing through the ring and stage in his encounters with Bam Bam Bigelow during his battles with the Triple Threat faction, showcased Taz's status as a top-tier main event performer. The storyline revolving around Taz's pursuit of the ECW World Heavyweight title, chasing Shane Douglas, stands out as one of the most compelling narratives in wrestling history. Taz's year-long journey to secure a match with Douglas, only to be constantly met with evasion and redirection, underscored the intensity of their feud. Taz's innovative response, creating the FTW Championship and calling himself the Fuck the World Champion as a direct challenge to Douglas's avoidance, added a layer of cleverness and defiance to the narrative. On January 10th, 1999, at Guilty as Charged, Taz finally achieved his goal, dethroning Shane Douglas to become the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. This monumental victory ended Douglas's historic reign and ushered in a new era. Taz held the championship for an impressive 252 days before departing for the WWF. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, Taz would return under WWF contract to defeat Mike Awesome for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. Taz would take his ECW Championship back to the WWF in April 2000, holding it on Raw and SmackDown, becoming the first and only original ECW champion to face the WWF World Heavyweight Champion when he wrestled Triple H on SmackDown. No other ECW champion was as highly regarded, well-known worldwide, and feared as Taz. No matter what anyone says, Taz is the greatest ECW World Heavyweight Champion of all time, based on his accomplishments and the level of exposure his title reign gave to ECW. And if you think otherwise, beat us if you can in the comments, and subscribe if we let you.